We at WWF-India Environment Education are delighted to have all of you with us for this special book launch. Books are very close to our hearts. They open doors to new worlds, illustrate us new things and amazing new ideas, and very often they can show us the way forward. And this is a very much such concept behind the book we are introducing to all of you today. Genome Jaunts, Seeing Animals Through the Lens of Genomics. We'll begin with an opening address by Ms. Neha Raghav, Head of Education, WWF India, who has led the development of this wonderful book. Over to you, Ms. Raghav.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the launch of the latest edition of WWF India's list of publications, Genome Jaunts. Genome Jaunts is a labor of love, sweat, blood, and everything it takes to create something so wonderful. I would like to thank all our special guests who've taken out time from their busy schedule to join us for the launch. Professor Raghavendra, Professor Santanu Chaudhury, Professor Harini Nagendra, Professor Samir Brahmachari, to whom this book is dedicated. We are extremely gratified to have you all with us. I also would like to welcome our stars of the day, Shreyas. Thank you for all the curious questions you asked, without which the book would never have seen the light of the day. So thank you for all those questions. Dr. Mitali, for all your patient listening and addressing the endless questions that Shreyas has to satiate a young boy's curiosity. Dr. Samatha, thank you so much for putting each word together, unraveling the magic of the natural world, documenting 50 most unique fauna from across the world. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Bijal Vachirajani, who is a famous children's author, and Aparna Kapoor for editing and proofreading the book and for all the contribution to the book. Thank you so much once again for joining all of us. And I would now hand over the virtual dais back to Ashley to take the session forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Raghav. Now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Mitali Mukerji. Dr. Mukerji is professor and head of the Department of Bioscience and Bioengineering at IIT Jodhpur. She was formerly a chief scientist at CSIR IGIB and has vast experience in the field of genomics, expertise that has so clearly molded Genome Jaunts into an unmissable read. I invite Dr. Mukerji to deliver the keynote address. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining this very exciting event. I am personally very, very excited about it because this journey started maybe in 2018 or something when Shreyas was in the 7th grade, and he spent a summer vacation in my lab, and which was a really wonderful exercise. So I just wanted to mention, first of all, I would really like to welcome so many people who have joined us for this event, which shows the interest this has evoked. But I would really like to kind of show my gratitude to my teachers and my colleagues and my juniors who have joined in the panel. So all of them have been wonderful teachers in different ways, and it was really wonderful for them to join the panel. So I would first like to introduce them a little bit and talk a little bit about why we wrote this book or how we went about writing this book. So first I'd like to introduce Professor Raghavendra Gadagkar, whom I have known as a teacher in ISC, and he's famous for taking classes which starts from 7 in the evening and ends at 7 in the morning. So he's a wonderful teacher, and he's a celebrated ecologist and an avid science communicator. Dr. Gadagkar has a career in ecology spanning nearly 40 years, during which he has established an active school of research in the areas of animal behavior, ecology, and evolution. And he's also author of several books, one being Survival Strategies, Cooperation and Conflict in Animal Societies. He's actually very renowned for his work on local wasp and how you can understand evolution of social behavior using these eusocial insects. It's a wonderful treat to hear him speak about this aspect. And he also has written a recent book on how to design experiments in animal behavior, cutting-edge research at trifling cost, which was serialized in Resonance Journal of Science and Education and has now been published in Indian Academy of Science, Bangalore as an open access book. And he writes fortnightly in the Wire Science entitled More Fun Than Fun, also translated in Kannada, which conveys the spirit and joy of science with a wide audience. So I think, welcome, sir. I think no better person from an ecological perspective than having you here. I then would like to invite Professor Brahmachari. He's known to all of us as the genomics person who initiated genomics in the country. And though he's been my mentor, this idea of dedicating this book actually came from Shreyas himself, because Shreyas learned lots of things as a kid, and he told me one time that how Roald Dahl writes in some book to Olivia, can we have something like that as to SKB in the book when it comes up? So we had not written a page also, but he wanted to dedicate the book to SKB. So that's the way he has motivated from kids to very, very senior people in the area of genomics. And he was the founder director of Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology, where I started my career. But he moved as the Director General of the CSIR, which is the largest publicly funded industrial research and developmental institutions in the country. He earlier was a professor in Indian Institute of Science and Biophysics department. And he actually led a very big program called Open Source Drug Discovery, which joined a large number of students across the colleges, around 8,700 colleges and 130 countries, to kind of show a new way of doing science in a community-driven way, and also make discoveries in a very cost-effective manner. So, welcome, sir, here. And then I'll like to kind of welcome Professor Santanu Chaudhury. He is our director at IT Jodhpur. He is traveling. I think his connection is getting, maybe he's there. So, he was earlier a professor at in the Department of Electrical Engineering. He still holds a professor position, but he moved as a director at IT Jodhpur. And he's built a very, very vibrant ecosystem which allows transdisciplinary research. He's leading expert in the country on computer vision and artificial intelligence, and has led and mentored in diverse areas of AI application, ranging from brain-computer interfaces, drones, digital health, and imaging diagnostics. So he's actually used extensively extended reality, AI, IoT, AR, VR technologies for transformational changes in the way we experience our heritage and culture. Noteworthy had been Humpy project, which the Digital Heritage Project. So he's also a proponent of education in new ways, new pedagogies. And being in IIT the last 2 years, I've learned a whole lot of things from him on education, because we were in a science institution earlier. So welcome, Professor Chaudhury, and Harini, Professor Harini Nagendra. I'm meeting her after many years, but she joined as our first integrative PhD students. That's how I know her. But she is actually ecologist and professor and director of research at Research Center at the Azim Premji University, Bangalore, and leads the university's Center for Climate Change and Sustainability. So over the past 25 years, she has been leading examination of conservation in forests and cities of South Asia and perspectives of both landscape ecology and social justice. And she uses satellite remote sensing coupled with field studies of biodiversity, archival research, many things for conservations. And she's actually a very celebrated author. She's author of Nature in the City, Bengaluru in the Past, Present, and Future. a book that examines human-nature interactions through history and cities and canopies, trees of Indian city. Recently, she wrote a mystery novel, I think, which has featured in the New York Times also, the Bangalore Detective Clubs and the Murder Under a Red Moon. So congratulations for this, Harini, and welcome to this panel. And maybe I'll spend 5 minutes as to how we went about. So I have known Shreyas right when he was a toddler, or rather when he was born, but he developed a very, very keen interest in fishes, and he has got many different kinds of aquarium in his house with different kinds of fishes, and he knows which fish to put in which aquarium, not like us who puts every fish in every aquarium. And one social meeting, I actually asked whether he's curious why these fishes are so different, and can we collaborate and write a book together. So he took to the idea and he said, okay, when I have my vacation, I'll join you. And little did I know that what I was in for, because we as we go over in our education, we tend to start thinking only humans matter, only humans is what we study. And through him, so we had a deal that I'll tell him about 50 genomes which have been sequenced, and he looks at why they are curious, and he turned the thing around in the first day and he says, I'll find out 50 curious animals and you tell me what the genome says. So the idea, so the thing, what happened was, we had not, as scientists, we had not looked at all those animals which were curious. So we could only have, there was sequence available only for 32 or something. But what questions he asked, even the scientists had not asked those questions. And they were very, very incisive sometimes. Each of these animals, we will go through the book, but typically he would have a very engaging way of why this animal should be included. So he would either have gone through a TED talk or through some kind of National Geography, and he finds some amazing attributes in them, and he would come to me and he says, look, this animal needs to be there. And then we would have an engaging conversation, and he will also tell me that you should remember that you are writing a book for a 13-year-old. You use too much jargon which we will not follow. So he was plainly dismissal. So it was very refreshing, very humbling, and a big learning experience for me, because I feel that if we can aggregate children's curiosity from all over the world in some way, maybe scientists will pose better questions, because it doesn't get homogenized with similar kind of education. So that's it for now. It has been a very, very rewarding experience, and I think we will talk about it more once we show some snippets. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for joining. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Mukerji. I request you to please unveil the Genome Jaunts book, as we all been waiting for that. So here we have it.
Thank you.
We can see a lot of congratulations and a lot of clapping that's happening.
Good.
And here you can see the inside of the book. On that note, thank you so much, Dr. Mukerji, for those insights and everything about the book and how it happened and how you all connected. And now let's go and know our other authors. So while you have met Dr. Mukerji, let's meet the young author whose curiosity started the Genome Jaunts journey, Shreyas Maiti. Shreyas is a class 11 student from Noida whose love and fascination for animals got him wondering whether these characteristics could be explained by their genomes. He's also quite a budding illustrator, and you'll find some of his digital illustrations in the book. Dr. Samatha Mathew. Our third author is Senior Project Associate with the Chemical Sciences and Technology Division, CSIR NIIST. She is a science communication whiz who combines creativity and scientific rigor to help create a unique book. I invite the authors to share with us what went into the making of Genome Jaunts. So over to you. Dr. Mathew, can you hear us?
Yes, thanks so much,
right.
Ashley. Can you stop sharing your screen so that I can, yeah. So good afternoon, everybody, for joining us today.
You have to put it in the slideshow mode.
It is in the slideshow.
Yeah.
So I'm really overwhelmed to be here. You know, we can't believe that this labor of love is finally ready to launch. And today what we are going to do is just give you a short peek into Genome Jaunts, how the three of us came together. So the common thread that links all of us is the place of CSIR IGIB. I was a PhD student there, and I am a graduate from there last year. I have met Shreyas many years ago when he was still a kid playing at his parents' office. So I was also a kid who used to play at my mother's office after my school. So I've seen Shreyas also. So I've seen him at that age where he used to collect bugs around in the CSIR IGB campus. And I remember with Vishnu, who is Dr. Sridhar's son, they used to discuss, will there bugs be on Mars? So I've heard those kind of discussions. To him, then coming to the zebrafish lab, and so we have a zebrafish facility at CSIR IGIB where I used to work, and he used to come there, and I've even shown him things under the microscope. So that is a short story we have in the Genome Jaunts book. So that's how I know Shreyas. I have always known him as a very curious child. And when Dr. Mitali called me in 2020 saying that, you know, we have this book in mind, there was no surprise for me because I could just imagine how Shreyas would have come up with that. And Dr. Mitali, obviously, she's very, very comfortable with engaging with young kids. And I could see how this book could come together. And I'm really thankful to both of them for giving me this opportunity to collaborate on this. So it was also during that time I had got a prize on science communication from the Department of Science and Technology. So I think that is what sort of prompted Dr. Mitali to you know, bring me into this project. But it has been a really, really humbling and this experience has been so enriching for me. And like you see, our project when we started, it was just about writing. But then when we joined hands with WWF-India, it became a completely different product at the end. And this beautiful cover and the entire book you see in front of you is because of Surbhi Badani. She is an illustrator with WWF-India. So when we compiled a book, I discussed with a friend of mine, Dr. Ambli Shivdas. She's also a PhD in genomics. And her son used to do a lot of WWF-India activities. And she suggested, why not think about approaching WWF-India? And her brother, Akhil Shivdas, has worked in wildlife conservation for some time now. And he suggested us to approach the environment education team at WWF-India. And now with Neha, we have known Neha now for more than 2 years. We have gone back and forth with her on this project for so long, but she has been very patient. Neha with her busy schedule, Dr. Mitali with her busy schedule, me at the end of my PhD, but we have somehow managed to bring it to this end. Thank you, Neha, for working with us and giving us this opportunity. And Surbhi, of course, she entirely transformed how we showcased our Genome Jaunts animals. And you will see that when you see this beautiful book. Shreya is another person who has been meticulously working with us for copy editing. She has gone through every line of the book and suggested corrections, added footnotes, etc. Thank you, Shreya. And we also want to thank the WWF-India communications team who have helped us advertise our book. We could have never imagined that WWF-India they'll advertise our book one day. But the communication team has done a great job at that. Thank you so much. So I also want to thank Bijal Vacharajani, whom Neha has already mentioned. So when we write a book, we are still, like Dr. Mitali says, we are still scientists and we still think from that viewpoint. But to make it to fit into a general audience, or even especially for the kids, we needed very good feedback, and Bijal was instrumental in giving us that critique. And of course, we have to thank Dr. Beena, who is a scientist at the CSR Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology, Delhi, and Shreyas' mom. She has written the foreword for our book. It is very interesting because she has watched this project from the right distance. She has never interfered, but if we needed an input, she would always be there to give us that input. And one thing we have been very clear about is that Shreyas is a teenager. We don't expect him to understand deadlines or productivity or anything. But so that communication could not have been done without Dr. Beena's involvement. So thank you, Dr. Beena, for that as well. So like Dr. Mitali said and and Neha said, this book is dedicated to Professor Samir Brahmachari. Like this, his name is something every IGIB student hears from day one. He is the founder director of CSIR IGIB, and he has started many pioneering projects in genomics in the country. So we call him fondly as SKB. And for Shreyas, he describes in the book how some of his first scientific concepts were simply put to him by Dr. Brahmachari by using a simple bed sheet, or by just collecting moss from the wall. So those kind of things Shreyas has mentioned in the book. So we have an entire section at the starting of the book describing the making of the book. All the three authors have contributed, telling how we started working on the book and how it changed our perspective about studying genomics, teaching genomics, communicating genomics. So especially because Shreyas was involved, our perspective was completely different. And because so one of the comments we always got was Genome Jaunts is not a very familiar term for a general audience, but we wanted to keep it that way because we hope that now Genome Jaunts would become a common term in every household. So at the beginning of the book, we also describe what a genome is, what a gene is, what is DNA, RNA, protein, etc. And we have titled that as the building blocks of life. And from here, Shreyas will take you through how he came up with his queries. And then Dr. Mitali will talk about how the genomes answer his queries. Shreyas, over to you.
So when this book started, I couldn't really imagine that it would end up like this. Initially, as a child, I thought I was just doing creative writing or writing practice, and just decided it would be more fun to write about these things than about some of the more generic topics out there. And initially, I was enjoying it very much. I used to even finish my homework quicker than I would usually to get to work on this book. It has been such a nice experience, and I've really enjoyed working with Mitali Mukerji, Dr. Mitali Mashi. I call her Mitali Mashi fondly, and Samatha Mathew. And as a child, I was really interested in animals. I watched a lot of Nat Geo, a lot of Discovery, etc. And WWF has played a part in my life from a really young age. And it's amazing that I can have a book which has the WWF logo a few centimeters away from my name. It's like a dream come true. And I'm grateful to all these people for making it happen. So how did I ask these questions? Initially, I learned a lot about animals during during the writing of this book. And initially, I would find some article or some video about the animal, and it would fascinate me. And so I would start reading about it more and more. And eventually, I would have a question. For example, on the slide, you can see the turkey vulture. So my question was, how come that the turkey vulture which eats dead and decaying animals, can handle those dead and decaying animals and the microbes that go into its stomach, while a normal person may not be able to handle. And Mitali Mukerji would then tell me that, so genomics says that turkey vultures have a unusually high acidic content in their stomach, and it would really fascinate me, and I loved every minute of it. Well, that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Shreyas. Dr. Mitali, you can then maybe take over.
Yeah. I'll just kind of say, tell you a little bit about the engaging exercise which we had with him. Sometimes you can go to the next slide. So the thing was that this is all about everything is there in our genetic makeup, and these are governed by these chemical letters AGCT. Combination of these letters will determine attributes. I'm telling in a very generic way. But all the animal forms, all the life forms have the same DNA, but it is the way it is ordered, it makes some differences to all of us, and that's how we have so much of diversity. So that was the starting point, as why, if there are so many interesting animals, why are they different, and what is there? Are there other clues there in the genetic makeup? So as I mentioned, Shreyas had his curiosity questions, and we found that out of the 50, only 32 were there, which had some answers from the genome, but only 23 could actually specifically answer what he asked. Others were from the perspective of somebody sequenced a genome and found some interesting attributes, not necessarily from a child's perspective. So if one example we enjoyed, both of us, I think it is there in the next slide, Samatha, is a typical kind of query which Shreyas would come up, and I would have to read quite a lot. It is Samatha, can you change the slide?
Yes, ma'am. That is.
Yeah. So for example, this is the mud skipper, and he had a question that mud skipper lives in the water and lives out of water, and both the times it has different kinds of things to counter. In the land, you have different challenges. In the water, you have different challenges. The way you can see inside water, when you come out of water, then your eyes have to see things in a different manner because that water refraction is not there.
Something really interesting about this animal, which I found really interesting, in fact, it is in the book, is that like we humans have figured out to carry water underwater and breathe and survive underwater for at least some amount of time. Quite similarly, the mudskippers also carry water to the land with pockets under their eyes and aerate it and use that to breathe. And it's one of my favorite animals in the book. And the physiology for living in water and on land is completely different, and somehow this fish is able to do both while not employing the techniques that are used by the amphibians to achieve that, and it's just really amazing.
So there were lots of answers which could be so in this manner. In the entire book, there are interesting facts that at the same time would engage you, make you curious, want you to know more. Also, sometimes there are cautions that how these are getting disrupted by human activities, too much lighting around the sea, which is disrupting fishes moving to the sea. All those kinds of snippets and facts he would pick up of different animals, and these are really interesting facts. And it also tells about the curiosity in the biology, at the same time the conservation needs. So I really loved writing this book, and I'm sure if you go through this book, you will also enjoy parts of it. So I think Shreyas can end with this one example with which the genome people have found no answers, but nevertheless, it's a very interesting animals, and he should relate this. And I think we will end with that, maybe. Yeah. You are muted. You're muted.
On the screen is the peacock mantis shrimp. It's clearly one of the most interesting animals. The peacock mantis shrimp has 3 pupils in each eye, allowing it to perceive color in a completely different way than what us humans can do. Even their bodies reflect color, polarized light actually, in a different way. And their world is like completely different from what even we can even imagine. They use these colorations and the light reflected from their bodies for territorial displays, etc. And another more interesting thing about them is that they have so there are 2 variants which have different kinds of arms. One which spears the prey, while another which boxes them, and both are based on the spring-loaded mechanism, which we also use for many different what do you say, many different instruments, etc. And the force from these spring-loaded mechanisms is almost that of a 22 caliber bullet. And in fact, in captivity, sometimes these mantis shrimp even break their tanks when they're not kept properly. And it's like really yet another fascinating animal. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shreyas and Dr. Mitali, for that. So with that, you have a short peek into Genome Jaunts. These are the highlights of our book. It's completely illustrated. Like I already mentioned, Surbi Badani has done a wonderful job of illustrating our entire book. We also have an animal ID card for each of the 50 animals described in the book. All of the genomes mentioned have, have been cited, and the scientific references we have put it at the end. So if anybody is interested, they can go and check them out. So our book is also divided into subsections like invertebrates, mammals, birds, etc. And after each of those sections, we have these exercises where our readers can sort of think about what they read through the chapter, and we call them as dwelling on animals. On the right, you can see an example of one of those exercises. And Shreyas has meticulously and compiled all the video links he has watched to select each of these animals. You can find on here at the end of the book with this QR code there. Somebody in the chat has asked, where can we get this book? So this book is now available both on Amazon and WWF Nature Store. So you can purchase these from there. So with that, we close our introduction to Genome Jaunts. And if there are no more questions in the chat or the Q&A session, we can move on to hear from our esteemed guests. And I give it over to Dr. Mitali.
Samatha, just a second, please, Samatha.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry. So Mr. Singh, who's the CEO and Secretary General of WWF-India, has joined us, and I would request him to say a few words. Over to you, Mr. Singh.
Well, my apologies for coming in like this, but I've been listening to your discussions from the very beginning, and I was deeply impressed by some of the content of your interactions, and also by the content that this book has, and I have it right here. I must congratulate all of you, because these kind of discussions are important, but also the lasting effect of a book like this are immense. I mean, people read this with great interest, and these are also on the shelves of libraries and reference areas. My request to you is, please consider this. I mean, amongst the authors, as well as all the senior people who are on the call just now, whether we could, as WWF, convert some parts of it into an exhibition. So, like an exhibition which we could take to our offices, which are located in the marine areas, or areas which are close to some of the insects, the creatures and the animals that you have displayed here, or generally otherwise as well, next to schools or places where people have interest. And this could be like a traveling exhibition, and I know that parts of the Northeast, there's a huge amount of requirement and request and thirst for this kind of knowledge, as is everywhere else. So this is my suggestion and request. Please consider this. We currently have a raptor exhibition going on in 6 areas in India. And wherever we've had it, we've displayed, and these are not permanent exhibitions, but then those departments and those institutions don't want to give it back. So we made them into permanent exhibitions in those areas. So this could be something that might be of your interest. And alongside it, we could also do posters. So the book, the portions of the book could also come out in a series of 3 or 4 posters, well illustrated, well described, and with all the interest that you have shown here. That's all. And my congratulations to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mr.
Yeah.
Ravi, I think it is a wonderful suggestion. I had the privilege of being interested in aquarium, influenced by Shreyas. I went to Vancouver Aquarium, and there I've never experienced 5 hours of spending in an aquarium. And what was interesting, that there were all history of the animal along with actual animals sitting there. And then at the end, there are question answers. The students will go through, and then you have to say whether you can answer this and that. So I think it's a very good idea. I'm so happy that you can take this initiative. I'm sure whatever it takes to do, I'll be there to help you to make it happen.
Thanks.
I'm sure Raghavendra Gadagkar can also support with his tremendous intellectual ability.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you. Yeah.
So Neha, can we, yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, sir. So I would first like to invite Professor Gadagkar to share his thoughts on this book.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm really delighted to be here and delighted to be part of this very unique event, of a very unique experiment. I first want to congratulate Shreyas, Mitali, and Samatha for the wonderful idea which they have actually put into practice. I haven't seen anything like this before, because here is an example of a curious kid bothering his aunt, and the aunt then taking the help of her PhD student, saying, let's all do something together and help answer these questions. And of course, they are experts in genomics, so they used that angle and did not just leave it at that, but brought it to a stage where it's published as a book, is being launched today. And we just heard that it will probably become a traveling exhibition and permanent exhibitions. So this is really sort of from the beginning to the end, a wonderful experiment. And I first want to congratulate the authors. I want to congratulate WWF for producing it so nicely, the illustrator for these wonderful illustrations. I'm very happy because this rings many bells to me. I just want to share is, first of all, it's very nostalgic. I knew Mitali and Beena as kids, and now I'm seeing them as senior professors who are encouraging kids of the next generation and the following generation. So Samir and I sort of grew up together at the Indian Institute of Science, and Harini was our student. So it's a really family that has grown and has grown in the sort of right direction. But there are 2 particular things that bring back memories to me, which I want to share with you. First, as it so happens that some time ago, I was in a similar function, releasing another book by one of our panelists, and that is Harini Nagendra. And as was mentioned, she and her colleague Seema Mandoli have written this wonderful book called Cities and Canopies, Trees in Indian Cities. And when I was launching that book, I said a few things which actually then got published in Resonance. And I want to quote 1 or 2 passages because they're so relevant. The point I'm trying to make is that the real people whom we should be addressing with all of this are not the kids, because the kids are so smart that they will pick it up very quickly. We need to only prick them just a little bit, and then they will take it and fly away with it, and maybe even produce books like Shreyas does. The people whom we need to prick hard are the teachers, so that we can actually change the education system. Because in the case of kids, it's easy because they have to do it themselves. In the case of teachers, they have to reform the education system, which is not easy. And the real function of the real message that should go out is really for the teachers. So let me just quote one or two sentences that I wrote and I said during the launch of Harini's book. I said that we treat our students in schools and colleges as empty and passive containers into which we can dump all kinds of facts, more or less in any order and in any quantity at any time. The task of the student is to memorize and recall. This does a very effective job of killing all curiosity and initiative. And with time, students just get better at being passive receptacles. To change this mindset, we must banish teaching from education and replace it with learning. The keywords are banish teaching and replace with learning. And using example of Harini's book, I suggested a way in which we could do this. I marked out 40 to 50 keywords in her book. And I said, if we ask students to pick any of these words that take their fancy and then go into cyberspace, find out all they can about it, and then come back to the class and have a discussion. And I made the prediction that the teachers will learn more than the students from such an exercise. And it's uncanny, that's what seems to have been done here. That's exactly what has been done. I don't believe that Shreyas and Mitali and Samatha have read my review of Harini's book, but that's precisely what they have done. And this is what I suggested some time ago. And so it gives me goosebumps to see that this is actually happening. I want to end with another thing, that memory that comes back. And this is particularly addressed to Shreyas, who is looking at all of these animals from the lens of genomics. In 2011, people have been sequencing genomes. I work on ants, bees, and wasps. And in 2011, the genome of the 5th ant species was published. So slowly they had started sequencing genomes. And when the 5th ant genome was published, PNAS asked me to write a commentary on these 5 ant genomes. And I will quote one sentence, one small paragraph from what I wrote, which is specifically for Shreyas. I said, the facts gleaned and described in the first article reporting the sequence of an organism's genome should really be thought of as no more than a postcard sent home by a visitor giving first impressions of a city, say New York, after spending just one day. The longer the visitor stays, the more he learns. And if he stays for years, he may write books about the architecture, the art and fashion scene, the crime scene, the ethnic composition of the city, and so on. We should expect something similar from those who will continue to study these genome sequences for many years to come. The point I'm making is that the genome is page 1. And once you have the genome, then there are many, many, many things you can learn from it. The genome is not the end point, it's the starting point. And then one can learn many, many things from it. The other point I want to just say is that, we just heard that Shreyas asked many questions, and Mitali and Samatha tried to answer these questions from genome, and some questions could not be answered. Now, people like Shreyas should wonder, but why? Is it that people have not looked hard enough? Or is it possible that in principle, some questions cannot be answered from the genome? Is there something more than the genome that we need to know in order to answer a question? So curiosity should be combined with critical thinking. And you must think critically and ask, can the genome sequence answer everything? If not, why not? What is it that the genome sequence cannot answer? Do we just need better annotation? Or do we need something principally different? something qualitatively different. That will take you to new horizons. So curiosity combined with critical thinking, combined with critical questioning, will then make you not only trouble scientists like Mitali with questions, but inform them of what their kind of research cannot answer. And then you can start new kinds of answers. So I see abundant curiosity, abundant ability, and I want to add to that critical thinking, questioning, disagreeing, disputing. See, science is work in progress. In science, you have to question everything. There is no point in agreeing. You must, everything in the text. See, the wonderful thing about science is any fact of science can be questioned and torn to pieces by anybody at any time, no matter what your age and your status in society is. That is the beauty of science. A kid can say this is wrong, and we have to then come back and tell the kid why it's right, and maybe we have to accept someday that it is wrong. So I hope there are many more Shreyases born from the inspiration from this, and I hope this becomes the way of teaching. This becomes a way of learning. This becomes a way of education. So I want to congratulate you. And as I said, this is a wonderful experience. I had no idea when I got this this email and I saw this book. I said, my God, this gives me goosebumps, because it's exactly what I think should be done. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I really enjoyed this, and I hope there'll be many more of this kind. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And as usual, we learn every time we interact with you. So Shreyas has been a very critical person with a scientific temper, and he would really question quite a lot. So I had to rope Samatha in, as you understand, to be able to cope up with his queries and all. So yes, that was wonderful. I think, so Harini, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mitali. It was such a lovely invitation. Thank you, Raghavendra, for remembering the book. I was also thinking of your comments and the resonance article very much. You know, Shreyas and Samantha, this reminds me, as Professor Gadagkar was saying, it is coming full circle for many of us. And I remember I met Mitali once when I just joined for an integrated PhD in Professor Brahmachari and Professor Gadagkar. So we are talking about 1992. And yeah, then I was a curious kid who had finished my BSc and was asking lots of questions. And I think this is, you know, one thing, if I think back, if I've been in different kinds of classrooms in different places, and I think you hear two very opposite kinds of teachers. And I'm sure you heard the first kind, which is you ask too many questions and don't ask stupid questions. And then there's the other kind, which says, which believes strongly that there can never be such a thing as too many questions, that there can never be such a thing as a stupid question does not exist. Because essentially a question means you're trying to understand something and you're trying to discover it. And so I think both the way Samantha and Mitali have dealt with you as a latter. And I think when you go on to becoming a teacher of your own, I mean, whether formally or informally, doesn't matter, but mentoring younger people, this is something which is a lot of a tradition that you can carry forward. Because I think both Samantha and Mitali have, like me, had the good fortune of also having dealt with other kinds of mentors who have had this. So it's very nice to see this tradition of questioning going on. Coming to the book itself, you know, as someone who is very interested in science communication, I think you're all together, three of you, I like the synergy, the little things that come together, the little fact sheets, for instance. I think the way Shreyas has put together this animal ID cards, for instance, yeah, the little animal ID cards, or the curious query. I found, you know, the way we tend to write books, otherwise it's very linear. If the standard academic training is very paper-like, you tend to write, here's an introduction, here are the facts, here are the conclusions, you're actually trying to stuff information. Shreyas, I think because of the way the book started with questioning, there are always questions. Does this genome tell us that? What's the curious fact? What's the question here? Why do we not know this? And what you can do through this whole thing is, I mean, I was really impressed how you get the fundamental part of genetics is the connection of genotype and phenotype. And the fact that so many organisms can have common genotypes in some completely different phenotypes has come through in a very, very simple fashion. So I really have to congratulate the three of you. I think this is a really excellent conversation. I know Vijay and others have helped you, but I'm sure the original crafting was your own, right? And it's so simple, it's so well done that it's really nice. I love the illustrations. I think the idea that of getting posters and getting an exhibition and getting other kinds of ways to communicate this across the country is a very nice one. One of the things I would encourage you is to try and see if you can make small reels and small YouTube videos, Instagram reels and things like that, because a lot of younger people watch these nowadays. And they're quite easy to do now that you have all the images and the animations. You can put a little reels together. I'm sure Shreyas will be far better at it than any of us, especially with something like this. But also posters, yes, we'd be happy again at the university. We ran a climate change festival that last year had 10,000 students called Rivers of Life. This year we'll have 20,000 students. We'd be happy to take this from you and even translate them into Kannada and Hindi and be doing these genomic posters. So definitely these are things. Mitali, we can discuss later and be happy to take this forward. But again, I just stop here to say congratulations. This is very nice. I mean, it's one of those things that I think really leaves you on a Friday evening feeling very good about the weekend, feeling very good about the future of especially all the children also logging into this webinar. I think we would love to see many, many, many more books like this. So congratulations to all three of you.
Thank you, Harini. Thank you for so much. And it's great hearing such nice things. We did not know when we were starting where we are going to head, and we did not know where to publish it. It was because it's a book is of such a kind that we did not really know whom to approach. So we approached random people, but finally, because of Samatha and all, we could get to the WWF, and they have been also very patient and sounding out to many people, finally taking the decision to take it up. So that has been a wonderful journey. And I think now I'd like to invite Professor Brahmachari, SKB, to whom this has been dedicated. So his thoughts and yes.
Thank you, Chota Scientist. I don't call Shreyas. From the baby, I used to call him Chota Scientist. So, Raghavendra, you and I are taken back almost 30 years. I was remembering in front of MBU, you and I will stand and discuss.
Yes.
I say, what about doing a genome of this ant or this? And you will say that it is still more long distance to do. Okay, I'm still learning the behavior. So it's wonderful that 30 years down the road, a Chota Scientist, Shreyas, has actually looked at the behavior and the habitats, and from that got connected to the genomics. And I don't know, I have shared sometime, Raghavendra, that my journey from Bangalore to Delhi had this extraordinary situation when these young faculties came and joined, and the Shreyas was born with Beena and Mitali and Samatha Mathew, whose marriage I attended. And from these babies, I have seen all the babies now, they are all grown adults. And so our home was an access to all these children. So I never missed any grandchildren in my personal life. And I had so many academic grandchildren. And Shreyas, I think, used that opportunity to use our house as his experimental laboratory to start with. And being in DG Bungalow, it's a very big place, and he will go around the garden and pick up some ant and ask for a matchbox where he can put the ant and take home. So Vani will join and take for a ride to the field. And I used to get worried whether this boy will get, there may be snakes and other things, but he had all curiosity and exploring the nature. And then in the IGIB campus, as you said, Vishnu and these people will have all sorts of ideas and they will go around. Now, the advantage Shreyas had that he had very excellent parents who were scientists and did not push them to the conventional education system that Raghavendra was talking about, and allowed him to explore. And he was so free. I realize the grandchildren has better access and more free. They don't care what is you, who are you, so he can spend time. And first thing he will do, occupy my chair. My favorite chair in my living room will be Shreyas's chair first. So I had to sit in other chair. And then, so when I came to the Bangalore, I made sure I make 2 such chairs. When Shreyas comes, he will occupy one, and other I can occupy. So I must say that this, the first version of this book, which was self-published without much illustration and so much, was sent to me and with a Happy New Year card from Shreyas, which reads, "I am grateful for all the care and knowledge you have given me, Shreyas. I hope your new house is as interesting as your old one. I must say, Bangalore is more interesting, and my extended house is in Institute of Science. So you cannot have a more interesting garden and space than anywhere in the world. You can go around. So therefore, I am congratulate Shreyas. You are actually fulfilled dreams of 2 of us, me and Raghavendra Gadagkar, standing in the corridors of Indian Institute of Science 30 years back when Harini joined. And I'm so happy that you have pushed the genomic scientist with your questions and saying, what biology can I learn from these huge data sets that we have? Now, you motivated me so much that I went, his house is like many aquarium, all sorts of things he will show. And this time when I was in Delhi, he wanted an exclusive appointment with us without parents. So we met at India International Center and we had a long chat and discussion. And he motivated me with so much of fish, seeing that, I like fish to eat, but I have never understood behavior of fish. So I actually went these 3 weeks back to Vancouver Aquarium. I also went to Euclid, it's Vancouver Island, an aquarium. And it was so fascinating that, so I got a book for you, Coastal Pacific. So this is your gift for this wonderful job you have done. Now, I also took a lot of videos for you so that you can actually, you have to have a quiz. I'm going to send you those videos after this presentation today. And you have to tell me what are these fishes, what are they, there is nothing, there's only video of the fish. I'm not giving you all the clues. So I'm very happy that this has happened. And Raghavendra writes book. I haven't written books. I'm trying to write something, but I'm so glad that I was very embarrassed that the book was when I opened the book and I saw that is dedicated to me. So I'm so happy that this has happened. Coming back to larger question that which Mitali and Samatha has done is actually encouraging this kid to bring higher level of science that you don't expect that kid to acquire at that age. And bringing to a platform which WWF has given, by which a global reach. I was so happy to see in Olympiad, biology Olympiad, Indian 4 topped the world, and 4 kids got all gold medal, right? And I was so happy to see Madan Chaturvedi of Delhi University took these students. So we have done in maths very well. Raghavendra, you'll be happy that, doing your biology was not very fancy those days, right? Yes. People thought, unless you do our time, unless you do computer science, maths, then you are a little inferior scientist. And so it was so glad to see that our Indian students not only topped in maths and physics, now they have topped in biology. And future belongs to biology. There's no question about it, because whole engineering will learn from biology, because just imagine the human mind, the network, computer science will learn the network, the neural network, storage of data, retrieval of data. I don't think, in a flash, the moment I saw Raghavendra Gadagkar, I remember 1992. I haven't seen here our student first integrated PhD batch. Suddenly their images come in. And this retrieval, computer science still can't do. We are far from it. The assessment, the ability. So we are going to, entire engineering will learn from biology. The second, medical science has already started moving, understanding of this. Then you have to design. Today, we do not have an eye lens, as we are talking about the fish eye lens is different. I was watching fantastic beauty of the Vancouver Island with the snow-covered mountain, sea. Every photograph I took, it just didn't work. Even with the most fancy iPhone, eye is seeing different than what I'm capturing. How will be tomorrow's photographic lens will be designed based on the knowledge how eye has worked. So every single engineering, nature is so amazing that it keeps one pump, one heart, no spare. And it works from a thick artery to a thin microcapillary in the eye without changing blood pressure. Impossible. Today, water system supply needs multiple pumps to reach the water on your tap. How is it nature designed one pump? So we haven't been able to design a pump like that. So therefore, every possible engineering of tomorrow will come from the learning of our biological systems. As Raghavendra said, you started with behavior. Now we have genome. Now you connect behavior, habitat, genome, and learn the function and get back to that function to create better engineering products. So that's going to be the cycle. So if today a young student comes to me who is class 10, 9, I said, read biology. Don't forget about it. Don't worry about only computer science and maths. Read biology. Because if you read biology, I didn't read biology when I was young. It was only Indian Institute of Science exposed me to biology, and it was an amazing place where I learned. So I will say it is not a book. It is not WWF has just created one more book, one more launch. I think what it creates is a revolution, a new revolution in education system, where we young children-driven inspiration should lead to products, lead to questions. And I think same thing we should do with the kids who will make toys, and maybe their toys will eventually become a product. So I think, although we all write national education policy, get involved into it, but I have practiced. I had a really field day, 23 years in Delhi, to have this natural learning environment where I had access to all these kids, and also along with the senior scientists. Of course, Mitali was a young ghost PhD arrival at IGIB. So I will say that it is this WWF has given a new opportunity for Indian science and created a new opportunity for our education system. And these kids of tomorrow, I think Raghavendra and I believe that good world-class science can be done in India. And I was telling my colleagues that I have gone to a few hundred times to abroad, right? I have gone to 15 times to the United States, but it's the first time I have gone for a social visit without a scientific engagement. And when I told that this is the first time I bought my air ticket, everybody said, my God. I said, I did the science sitting in India. I did not do the science anywhere else. Same as Raghavendra Gadagkar. I'm sure he will tell that. So therefore, I think this gives a possibility to create a huge self-respect for Indian scientists, young generation to look forward me, Badakar, we are minority. We haven't been trained in the West. But 80-90%, Mitali is one of the exception. Beena is exception. So that exception is becoming a rule now. And this generation should look at this model and say, we will do the science sitting in this country, and we will create prosperity, we'll make application of science benefit, we'll create new knowledge that then others will come and follow. And I think that should be the spirit of this book launch. And WWF has done a great job by giving a global endorsement, and they can take it forward. Thank you, WWF. Thank you, Shreyas, my chota scientist. Thanks, Mitali and Samatha, to support it. I had a chance to meet Samatha recently. And Raghavendra Gadagkar, you are an inspirational teacher for natural biologists of this country. So thank you for being here. And of course, our Santanu is not here, but he has been instrumental in allowing Mitali to pursue so much of his time in spite of sitting in Jodhpur IIT. All the best. Wish you all the best. I'm looking forward, Shreyas, your trip to my house. And I have to keep a location for you to get the aquarium. And I'm still looking forward that this summer, sometime you'll be able to come and not get busy with all sorts of entrance preparations and exams. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Professor Brahmachari. And like you rightly mentioned, this book is not just a book, but a revolution for many enthusiasts, young as well as adult enthusiasts who want to know more about genomics. And also on that note, I also want to thank our special guests for sharing their words of appreciation and sharing such insights.
Can I ask one question to the author? Why the word jaunts?
So,
Shreyas, can you explain? Or Mitali, any of you?
So dictionary meaning of jaunt is just like a stroll around, meaning without any kind of a name, you move around. So our idea was that let us understand moving around the genomes, how the animals are all about. So it was just some kind of a discussion, and everybody also asks, what is jaunts? So it gives us a way to also start a conversation about the book. But it is like, if you see the book, it is not structured in a way that this animal, this bacteria from a classification. It's just a movement around of a kid around curious animals, and then we stroll through the genomes to find out whether we get some answers. So that is the spirit in which I kind of thought about this name. And then we had a conversation with Shreyas, and he kind of endorsed it. Okay, we looked at the dictionary and we thought that this seems to be apt. So that's how we wrote the...
So, Shreyas, I don't have the hard copy. So I was looking forward your signed hard copy for me to get. That would be my honor.
I would also like to add that at the time that this name was chosen, I was a great fan of alliteration.
Oh.
That was another plus point to the name.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I will leave now. Yeah.
Samatha, someone is asking, is there another book planned like this, like a series of books, maybe another set of 50 animals, most unique animals? So yeah.
I think Shreyas should be the person who should answer this question.
Yeah.
He's our lead author. Shreyas?
Well, I don't know about the same kind of book. I don't know if that'll happen again. It was really like an organic thing that happened. Don't know if we can make that happen again and again, but I sure want to write more about animals. I'm ready to do.
Fantastic. Okay, so there's no other, if there's any question, you can type in the chat box. I'll quickly enable the chat for all the attendees. You can now chat. So if there are any questions, you can type over here.
There's a hand raised. Should we unmute? Or?
Yes, yes. So Manasi Mukherjee has a question. I have asked you to unmute. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Shreyas. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Manasi.
Hi, Shreyas. I'm currently working with Professor Mitali in her lab in IIT Jodhpur. I'm basically an ecological enthusiast. I'm really happy to see your book being launched because she's been talking about this for a long time and we have had several discussions. And since I've already worked in the field of aquatic ecology earlier, I was very intrigued with the kind of questions you asked regarding the fishes, especially. And then currently I am more towards the birds now. And since the birds are equally included in your book now, it is now, a kind of book that I've gifted my daughter that because she asks n number of questions and most of them are completely unanswerable by me. So now I have asked her to, list down her questions, and maybe in future I would see another Shreyas coming up at my home, hopefully. So yeah, it was just to congratulate you for the book. Thank you.
That's great. If so much, Mansi. Any other questions before we close? I think the time would allow us to take one more question if possible. How the book will be accessible to us? You will be able to buy the book from Amazon. Just look for the book on Amazon. And you will also be able to buy the book from WWF India's Nature Store.
I think you should mention that the proceedings of these books will go to the welfare of the animals.
Yes,
and
yes, absolutely.
others are not going to be beneficial. So that is a very novel fact, and that should promote people to buy the book.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Dr. Brahmachari. In fact, all our publications, the proceeds actually go towards the conservation of wildlife in the country. So yes, and Shreya has just put the link in the chat box. If you want to go and check out, you can do that right away. So I don't see any other questions. It's time to close and call it a day. There are still a few congratulatory messages which are coming in. So thank you so much for that. And we are going to send out what such an amazing, inspiring interaction and discussions that we have this evening. I think so. I am going to go back and watch this entire recording again. And all those who have joined us and registered through Zoom, we will send the recording to you, and we will try our best to make the recording available on YouTube if possible. I am promising on somebody else's behalf. So we'll try our best to do that, and we look forward to, as Mr. Singh had suggested, let us also start discussions for setting up an exhibition and also coming out with posters. Professor Harini suggested if we could come out with the book in various languages and posters in different languages, we will be able to take this book to a far wider audience. Thank you so much, everybody who's joined. I am completely overwhelmed. I think so. I was smiling throughout, and I'm going to smile for the rest of the day. And thank you so much, Dr. Mitali, Shreyas, and Dr. Samatha for reaching out to WWF India to put together such a beautiful book. Thank you so much. And bye-bye. See you soon again. Until Shreyas comes back with another book idea.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.